The woods at the edge of Havenwood were not friendly. They were called the Whispering Woods. Old trees, gnarled and twisted, seemed to lean in. They whispered secrets to the wind. Or maybe they whispered warnings. No one in town liked the woods. Children were told to stay away. Even adults hurried past, never looking too deep into the shadows. They said you could get lost in there. And sometimes, on cold nights, strange sounds drifted out. Lately the whispers had changed. They sounded more urgent. Something new had come to the Whispering Woods. People only caught glimpses, a flicker of movement in the deep gloom, a pair of eyes shining like cold fire in the night. No one could describe it clearly. It was too fast. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was not natural. Old Man Hemlock was the first to see it up close. He lived in a small, rickety cabin closest to the woods. One evening, as dusk settled, he heard a scratching at his door. He peeked through his window. A massive dark shape stood on his porch. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light. He ran to the centre of town, gasping for breath. "A beast!" he cried. "A monster from the woods! It came for me!" The legend of the Havenwood horror began that night. Fear had a new name in Havenwood. Havenwood was a small town, the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else. It was usually a quiet place. But now a dark cloud hung over Havenwood. The cloud was fear. Fear of the Whispering Woods, and fear of the creature said to live within its depths. Then the dog appeared. It was large. Its fur was the colour of midnight. It moved with a strange silence. It didn't bark like other dogs. It just watched. It would stand at the edge of town, its silhouette stark against the fading light. The townsfolk saw it, and they remembered Old Man Hemlock's story. This was no ordinary dog. You could tell by its eyes. They held an unsettling gleam. Was this the beast from the woods? Its presence was unnerving. People started to whisper, "It's the beast," some said. The dog became a symbol of the darkness that now touched their once peaceful lives. The dog began to follow people, not in a friendly way. It would appear suddenly when they were alone, when the streets were dark and quiet. It moved like a phantom. One moment the alley was empty, the next the dog was there, standing, watching. Its presence was a heavy weight, a silent threat. It never barked. The silence was worse. Sarah Jenkins was walking home from her late shift at the diner. The streetlights on Elm Street flickered. She heard a sound, tap, 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 soft paws on the cold pavement behind her. She dared to look back. The dog. It stood under a flickering streetlight. Its eyes were like two burning embers in the darkness. What did this creature want from the people of Havenwood? Little Timmy Miller loved to play outside. His red ball was his favourite toy. One afternoon he was playing in his yard, near the edge of the Whispering Woods. He kicked the ball too hard. It rolled right into the dark trees. Timmy hesitated. He knew he wasn't supposed to go into the woods, but it was his favourite ball. Suddenly the dog was there. It appeared from nowhere. It stood between Timmy and his ball. It let out a growl, a low guttural sound. Its lips curled back, showing long, sharp teeth. Timmy froze, his eyes wide with terror. He wanted his ball, but he wanted to run more. He couldn't move. Timmy let out a terrified scream. "Mummy!" His mother heard him. She ran outside. Her heart leaped into her throat when she saw the scene. The huge, dark dog growling at her son, its teeth bared, ready to attack. She screamed at the dog, waving the rake wildly. The dog looked at her. Then it backed away. The fear in town grew deeper. Mr. Henderson owned the town's bakery. He was known for his early mornings and late nights. One night, he was working later than usual. He smelled something sharp, acrid, smoke. It wasn't the pleasant smoke from his ovens. This was the smell of danger. He rushed to the back of his shop. Flames. Small, hungry flames were licking at a pile of old wooden crates. Panic seized him. He had to put it out, but he was alone. Suddenly, a sound cut through his fear. Barking. Loud, insistent barking. He spun around. The dog. The terrifying dog from the woods. It was there. It wasn't barking at him. It was barking at the fire. Frantically, it ran back and forth. Then it rushed to his back door, pawing at it, scratching, whining. Its eyes seemed filled with a strange urgency. Mr. Henderson was terrified of the dog, but its actions, they were not threatening. It seemed to be warning him. The dog's desperate bark spurred him into action. He grabbed a nearby water bucket, filled it and doused the flames. Could the dog have saved his bakery? The old mill stood on the outskirts of Havenwood, a forgotten relic. Its windows were broken, and its walls were crumbling. The townsfolk said it was haunted, dangerous. Kids, of course, were drawn to it. Two teens, Mark and Lisa, decided to take the dare. They snuck in at dusk. The air inside was cold and damp. Every sound echoed eerily. Shadows danced in the corners of their eyes. Suddenly they heard it, a low growl from the main entrance. They turned and their blood ran cold. The dog, the terrifying dog. It stood in the doorway, blocking their only way out. Its body was tense, its eyes glowed faintly. It let out another growl. Then a deafening crash. A huge wooden beam tore loose from the ceiling. It smashed down onto the floor. The dog barked once, a sharp, commanding bark. Were they just lucky? Or had the dog stopped them from walking into a death trap? A storm descended upon Havenwood. It was unlike any storm they had seen in years. The sky turned a bruised purple-black. Wind howled, tearing at rooftops. Rain fell in sheets. Trees groaned and swayed violently. The power went out, plunging Havenwood into darkness. The river began to swell. It churned with mud and debris, rising fast. The Peterson family lived close to the riverbank. Water began to creep into their yard. Suddenly they heard a frantic sound, scratching, whining, barking. It was coming from their living room window. Mr. Peterson cautiously pulled back the curtain. It was the dog, the feared dog of Havenwood, soaked to the bone, its fur plastered to its body. It was pawing at the glass, its eyes wild with a desperate plea. It barked again and again, looking at them, then towards the river. Mr. Peterson hesitated. This dog was supposed to be a menace, but the desperation in its barks was undeniable. He unlatched the window. The dog didn't try to enter. Instead, it backed away, barking insistently. Then it ran towards the riverbank, looked back and barked again. Taking a flashlight, Mr. Peterson braved the storm. He followed the dog. It led him upstream. The dog stopped and barked furiously at a small earthen dam. A huge crack snaked across the dam's surface. Water was gushing through. It was about to burst. The dog had been warning them of an imminent flood. They had to evacuate immediately. Mr. Peterson rushed back to the house. "We have to leave, now!" he yelled. They gathered the children and scrambled out. Just as they reached higher ground, they heard an enormous roar. The dam gave way. A monstrous wave of water surged downstream. The dog had saved their lives. They watched in stunned silence, the dog standing beside them, a silent, wet guardian. The people of Havenwood gathered in the town square. The storm had passed, leaving behind a trail of destruction. But it had also washed away their fear and misunderstanding. They talked, they shared their stories. The encounters that had once terrified them now painted a different picture. The fear they had felt slowly turned into awe. Then a deep sense of shame settled upon them. They had misjudged him so badly. This dog was no monster, it was a protector, a silent, watchful guardian. It had faced their fear, their anger, their threats, and still it had watched over them. They decided to search for the dog. They owed it an apology, they owed it their gratitude. They found him near the edge of the Whispering Woods. He was lying down, looking thin and exhausted, but he was alive. As they approached, he lifted his head. The mayor stepped forward slowly, holding out a bowl of food and water. "We were wrong," he said, his voice filled with emotion. The town of Havenwood didn't have a name for the dog at first, but eventually they settled on a simple name. Hero, a true hero.